I mean, just you feel bummed for like Logan and Hep and McCoy and Max. You know, just that they don't get to finish their careers off the way that we felt like it. Secondly, you just you feel bad for all the people that the Luke Hamlins and the Eli Putnams of the world that did such a great job of last year putting ourselves on the map and laying the foundation, and just embarrassed that we kind of let those guys down and just let the fans down. Just frustrating. You got to do a lot of looking in the mirror though. It starts with me. Like I just didn't do a good enough job this year. We severely underachieved, and at the end of the day, that's on me. And just didn't do enough job to reach the guys, to get them to figure out how important games were, and what we needed to do to match the expectations and the talent that we had. Just frustrating to leave a team talented like that on the field that just we just didn't do enough to get into the NCAA tournament. At the end of the day, that's on us. I mean, we didn't do enough. You can say whatever you want to say about what our metrics were and all that, but at the end of the day, like we didn't do enough to make it where the committee had no other choice but to put us in the tournament. Like I said, it was just a frustrating year, I think, from day one. We just never turned the corner like I hoped. I don't know. It's really tough to know. I guess it depends who the win is against. Obviously, if you beat ECU, who's a top 15 RPI team, the RPI jumps some. Beating Houston, who was below us in RPI, still doesn't get us to like a 40 win number. Obviously, it seems like that's a huge number, being 40 wins and top 40 RPI. The committee's never left you out, so I still think we've been on the bubble. Obviously, the fact that they said we were the fourth team out, like one win. I don't know if that really does enough for us. Probably would have had to been. I mean, I don't know. It's tough to really tell, but we should have never been put in that situation. We dropped too many games during the course of the year that we felt like we should have won, and that we just didn't show up or just didn't play to our expectations. And at the end of the day, that ended up costing us. Yeah, I mean, it's huge. We just had very limited leadership. Vocally, just the way they go about their business, and again, we had a lot of new players, and that plays into it a little bit. But last year our best players were just really, really good leaders. We just didn't have enough leadership. Just had too much drama, I felt like, in the clubhouse, and just drama of external things like the draft and things like that became the focal point too much instead of just the team. And the year before, we don't have the talent, we don't have that. Luke Hamlin could have played pro ball and turned down jobs, like had no desire to play professional baseball. He wanted for UCF to be really, really good. He wanted to leave his legacy here. He cared about winning. So when the other things become the forefront of people's agendas or mindsets, you lose sight of what is supposed to be the number one thing, which is us winning games, and the other stuff being a result. It becomes our success leads to your personal and your success in the draft, and become that kind of stuff, and that just, I don't think that was the way things went this year. No, I mean, I think as a person that's positive and is always looking for the positive stuff, I always kept thinking that we would turn the corner. We went through a rough patch there around the Memphis weekend that I thought was going to be like a positive, situation where I thought that we were working through a lot of stuff, and that was going to be the beginning of the turning point kind of thing. And again, the age and stuff ended up playing better. Those guys grew up, those junior college guys, and like a guy like Beaver and Alejo were our two best players at the end of the year, just to see their growth over the year. You just started to see that maturation, and it just, from a collective collective side, though, we couldn't make the turn as a group. But I always believed that we were. I mean, I kept believing that we were, and it just never happened. I mean, probably. I mean, you look back on it, it's obviously the most frustrating year just because, again, I thought this was the most talented team I've ever had as a manager. So, to not live up to our own personal expectations, my personal expectation, and obviously me personally, like, I'm going to take a lot of fault for this. I'm going to put a lot of this on my own, and that's going to bother me. Because at the end of the day, like, that's my job is to get the most out of this team, and I didn't do that. So, I've got to learn from this and look in the mirror and figure out how better ways to motivate and to get guys to believe and change some things, whether it's recruiting wise or just culturally, and doing different things. Understand that as the dynamic changes here, be it the draft and the junior college stuff, and not having guys here for 3 or 4 years all the time. I've got to come up with different ways to coach to get the same results that I want. The long-term goal is never to be JUCO dominant. You try to utilize the JUCO spots as a spot filler or a role filler. Like, hey, we're one guy away, and we don't want a freshman. We want somebody, and you bring them in. It's a lot easier. That's how we did it at Wright State. We were signing 1 or 2, 3 junior colleges kids a year, and it was more like, hey, we have a huge need at shortstop, and where are we going to find the best shortstop at? We'll probably find it in junior college more than a high school kid at this point. With the recruiting the way it is when I got the job, really the 2019 recruiting class, which means they won't be here until 2020 baseball season, was the first class that we really recruited with a fair level playing field as everybody else. I mean, all the guys that were freshmen here were either committed here or they were just what was left over. And some of those guys are really good, and that's not a bad thing. But just in terms of us trying to get the high school and continue that, we felt like the 19 class was our first class that we feel like we have all kids that we chose, that we got a fair shake with everyone else in the country, that we weren't picking what was left over kind of thing, and whatnot. So it's just really hard to get out of the JUCO mode and into the high school mode until you kind of start having that type of, until you get those recruits in. So that slows that process down. I think, again, in 4 or 5 years, the goal would be to sign 90% high school kids and 10% JUCO kids. Now you also have the draft and all that kind of stuff that plays into it. And, are the high school kids that you do sign, are they going to show up and all that? So definitely makes, our sport, to me, the most difficult sport as a coach in terms of recruiting, because we have our own players that can leave. We have our junior college and our freshmen that might not even show up, and it just makes it a lot more difficult to plan and to build and to do those different types of things. And so you just got to get the right mix and whatnot, and get the right guys. But at the end of the day, it's not the junior college kids' fault that we didn't do well. I mean, there's just as much fault as the kids that have been here for 2 or 3 years that just didn't do enough in terms of leadership-wise to allow us to have the success that we needed. I mean, Ray and Dallas obviously were the 2 huge ones offensively. I mean, Dallas having not playing a lot last year and having a good summer, but then just to see his growth. I mean, him and both Ray got off to slow starts, striking out a lot, just looked overmatched, and I'm sure part of it was they wanted to get off to a good start, but part of it was just them learning and again, we talked about it, like, not having 200 at bats in a season is a detriment, really. And so once you've never done that, it's really hard to understand the grind. It's really hard to understand how to manage, how to have good at bats consistently, and how to have the failure and not allow it to carry over. And if you look at the last month's stats, I mean, Ray and Dallas were head and shoulders our best player, and just to see their growth and to see how good of a players they were the last month of the season, and to know what their future is going to be like now because of that. It's just really, I'm really proud of those two. Those two really care. They really wanted to do well and really show that they belonged here and that they could have success at this level. I'm really looking forward to being able to see that growth continue over the next year for both those guys, and we're going to need it. On the mound, I think Thad is probably the one that stands out the most. I mean, the maturity that Thad has shown. I mean, he was just an immature, like lazy, scatterbrained, like mentally weak kid when we got here 2 years ago. And to see the growth, I mean, Justin has really done a great job of not coddling him. I mean, I'm surprised there was times that he didn't quit, that he probably thought Justin hated him and we were too difficult on him, but we just saw how good he could be. And last year, he was the guy that was like, here goes Thad again. He's walking the bases loaded, like, let's get Heppel in here to get him out of the bases loaded jam, and then the role reversed. I mean, he was the guy that we were going to when somebody else walked the bases loaded and we had bases loaded and no outs, and who are we going to go to? So, I mean, from the guy that was, putting us in those positions that we were like knocking our heads on the wall, to the guy that we trusted the most with the ball at the end of the year, and he's going to make a lot of money now because of it. I mean, just to see, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, first month I was here, like, is that be a second or a third round pick or the first guy drafted off of your team in 2 years? Like, I think we all would have laughed, and it's going to happen. And that's just a testament to him and Justin, just how much work he's put in, how much he's learned and gotten better at all the things that he was weak at. He's like a totally different person now. Just the trust that we had in him this year was like the total opposite of what we had last year. And that's not easy to do. I mean, I think it's always a worry. You bring in the JJs and those guys, and you never really know what you're going to get. Academically, are they going to make it? Physically, will they buy in and all that kind of stuff? So, I mean, there's always challenges every year. So, you'd like to have more returners coming back that you can bank on. But, who knows? Obviously not having the draft yet, not knowing who's going to really technically be back and who's not. That's part of our job. We got to develop guys. We're bringing in, more guys, and got to develop those guys. And just like Thad Ward, there's going to be somebody else that steps up. And, just like a Cree coming off injury, like a David Litchfield, who we really thought highly of, that thought was going to be a big part of our bullpen this year, will be back, coming off of surgery. And so, yeah, I'd love to have like more like rock solid like returners that have proven themselves, but the Williams and the Westbergs and those guys. Now Hackison had great numbers. He'll be a year older. And Sinclair and the guys that we're bringing in, Litchfield, like I said, like those guys are just gonna have to step up. And, we obviously put a lot of trust in Justin to develop those guys and figure it out. It'll be just as good. Well, Ray and Dallas are going to be the two of the guys that really need to step up. Just to see their growth and just the leadership qualities that they have, and obviously having the success that they had this year will help, hopefully formulate some more leadership. And but we've already had initial conversations with those guys, and I'll have more over the summer with them. Just ask them to do more leadership-wise and help me more, and and just kind of be the guys that show the way and kind of get things back to where the guys like Luke and Eli had gotten it to up to this point. So, but those two guys offensively, I think, are going to be the biggest ones. And a guy like Westberg's going to have to take over for Heppel and Tucker for things that they did in the weight room. He was kind of hooked onto them a lot, this year, and so he really changed his body. I think that the leadership of Heppel and Tucker and their legacy that they left like that is going to be big, and now he's going to have to step up kind of with the work ethic and whatnot. And Willie's going to have to do more, and there'll be guys that step up that you kind of don't foresee necessarily. Maybe some junior college guys that come in, hopefully get their feet on the ground and kind of help put us in a good spot. Yeah, it's tough to tell. I think Osik, I think he'll be back. I think he wants to be back. Rylan, obviously being draft eligible. I mean, he's all over the map. I think when you talk to guys, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he goes in the third round. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't get drafted at all, just because of slipping and and then people just being like, well, he's probably going back to school kind of thing. Where it's not like he's not good enough to get drafted, but I'm not going to waste a draft pick on a guy that we know has leverage and is going to go back for another year. So he could be all over the map. I don't think Ryland is dead set on either or. I mean, I think if he gets what he wants, he'll go, and if he doesn't, he has no problem coming back and proving again, what kind of hitter he is and whatnot. So, that's just kind of one of those things that I'll be looking at the computer screen for 12 hours come Wednesday and Tuesday next week. So, it'll be a stressful day just with the kids we got coming in and making sure that all those guys are going to show up and all that. It'll be a stressful 3 days. I mean, obviously the guys I know are going to leave, JJ's and Tucker's, I think are, unless something out of the just crazy happens, that they're going to get drafted pretty high and they're going to get what they want. But there's also some in-betweeners and some guys in the recruiting class that are in-betweeners that you just never know, that could be here or could not be here. And you can go from a good draft day to a really, really bad draft day. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously really talented. Just got God-given abilities. He's one of the strong. I mean, Jamie talks about being probably one of the strongest baseball players he's ever worked with his entire career. Just really, really gifted. And JJ's like a really charismatic kid. He's really charming, and everyone loves him. He has a way to work a room and work people, and just the energy. And I've never seen him not with a smile. He's just happy and brings so much energy. He's the first one out of the dugout every time he scores. Cares. He's competitive as can be. I've never seen some of the things that he's done. That leadoff triple against Stetson, and then just strikes the side out. Just stuff like that where you never worried about the moment being too big or him succumbing to pressure or anything like that of the moment. He's just out there competing his tail off and wants to do well. He's come a long way academically. I'm really proud of him, the things that he's done off the field. And he really had never lifted a weight, so just the things, the strength numbers, the gains that he made in the weight room were just sick, unbelievable. I've never seen before. And he's still got a ways to go, just in terms of the little things, taking care of himself and nutritionally, and making good decisions, and just putting forth effort with everything, not just about competing, but we had a long talk about it. And, he's gonna, I think, get drafted really high, and he's got a chance. I mean, he's no doubt has the ability to pitch in the big leagues. It's just what kind of decisions does he make? How much does he care about the little things? And if he does that, hopefully he learned that over the last year. I think he was probably really bad at it before he got here, and I think he's a lot better. But there's still room for him to get better at it to make the growth that he needs in order to be a long-term, option and then at the next level and make a lot of money. And we talked a lot about that too, because he has a chance to make a lot of money and set himself up for the rest of his life. And he needs to make sure he makes every decision with that